For you 2011 to 2023 rear-wheel drive Challenger owners out there who are looking for better handling and a lower ride height for an affordable price, you'll want to check out this MAXX Coil-Over Kit. This is a full coil-over conversion kit that affords you the ability to adjust your car's ride height and damping. It's not going to cost you a ton either. So if you're planning to carve up a mountain road or hit the track, this is a great way to prep your car for that without having to spend a bundle. I make no secret that suspension mods are probably my favorite thing to do to a car because they can make such a noticeable difference in how the car looks, feels, and drives. The MAXX Coil-Over Kit we have here is no exception. This kit converts your rear-wheel drive Challenger to a full front and rear coilover setup, which is going to improve your handling dramatically. But it's also going to lower your car up to 2 inches both front and rear. So you're going to get a nice low aggressive stance that's not too low that you can't drive it, and that's going to go along with your improved handling too. The collars on the bottom of each strut assembly adjust for height, and you can also adjust the spring preload as well. But the biggest story here is that these dampers are 40-way adjustable as well. These are monotube dampers, meaning that they are going to be stiffer than your factory setup, so expect a noticeable firmness to the ride quality. Combined with the higher rate springs and lower ride height, these are going to transform your Challenger from a bit floaty in stock form to a more track-ready, firm, and poised machine. But the great news is you can still rock these on a daily driver because of all that adjustability. If you want to soften things up, you've got the dials right up here on the top for the fronts, and you've got these adjustable collars right here on the rears. So if you want to soften things up, turn the dials down for your commute, and then when you're going to the track or heading to your favorite windy road, you can dial these back up for some additional firmness. Lowering the car and having that firmer setup will mean less body roll and dive in corners and under braking, respectively, so you'll better be able to control the movement of even a large car like the Challenger. The bodies of the shocks are made from 52mm JIS seamless carbon steel with T7075 forged aluminum hardware to save some weight. Inside the shocks, you'll find 44mm internal floating pistons with IPFA high viscosity shock oil. So these have got some good stuff inside. The springs are made from SAE 9252 steel, and they are powder coated black for additional protection. Now these are also component based, as you may have already picked up on. So that means there are replaceable elements such as your mount down here, your top mount, etc. And that's good news if you want to keep these for a long time. If anything happens to wear out or break, you can replace components and keep on going. Now pricing comes in at around $1,600, and that makes these a pretty affordable option if you want to go for a full coilover setup. So for the lower ride height, the improved handling, and especially all that adjustability here, these are definitely a solid choice for the money. Installation gets a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should take you around 6 hours to complete. Now there might only be a couple of pieces up here, but there's a lot to do. However, everything here is going to bolt right in without the need for other modifications. So you'll just need to set aside some time to get it done and get the ride height dialed in properly. And also, as always with any suspension modification, make sure you go get a proper alignment once you've got everything installed. With that, let's head on out to the shop, and we're going to walk you through the process step by step.
For this install, you need a 3/8 impact and 3/8 extension, 21, 18, 16 swivel, 15 and 13mm socket, a hammer, an 18 and 15mm wrench, the spanner wrenches, and pry bar. And also not shown to be a lift and pull jack. All right, today we're going to be installing some coilovers on our Challenger. First, we're going to watch a quick video on how to uninstall the front and the rear stock suspension. Then we'll come back here to install the new stuff.
First step, we're gonna get our wheels out of the way. Our factory lug nuts here are 22mm, so I got my impact gun. I'm using air tools for this, but if you don't have air tools, of course, a lug wrench works just as well. This is just gonna make life a little easier. All right, next up, we're gonna disconnect some of the ABS lines here so we don't put too much stress on them as we remove some suspension components. Now these are just rubber. I'm just gonna pull straight off on that guy. There's 2 more clips on your brake lines as well. I'm just gonna disconnect those to give it a little bit more slack. Next up, we're gonna disconnect our sway bar end link from the strut body. Now this is a 21mm nut. Now using air tools, it can be a little easier, but if you're using an impact gun, it might start spinning the bearing, in which case you wanna be able to hold onto the backside with something to keep it from spinning. All right, so now you can pull the sway bar end link out of the strut body, and I like to just put that nut back on just to keep it safe, you know, so we don't lose it. What I just did was I put a pry bar right on the other side of the spacer to put a little tension on it as I took it off to keep it from spinning. right, next up, we're gonna tackle the nut holding on our upper control arm to the knuckle itself. Now, this is an 18mm nut, and what we're gonna do is use a swivel socket on my impact gun, or you can use a ratcheting wrench, that'll work as well. We're gonna work this guy off. It might also be a good idea to put a pry bar on the spring and pry down on it so it doesn't shoot off. All right, we're gonna keep this on a couple of threads just to make sure we can disconnect these two without it shooting off. So just put the nut on a couple of threads. So now I'm gonna pry up to disconnect the ball joint here. So now we can pry back down, take that nut off, and work this off easily. All right, just guide the knuckle back down. And I'm just gonna thread the nut back on so we don't lose it. All right, use that same 18mm socket, and we're gonna remove the bolt holding on the factory strut to the bottom control arm here, the lower control arm. Now, the nut is already on the strut body, so we don't need a wrench on the other side, but I am gonna keep my hand here to keep it from popping off too quickly. All right, next up, we're under the hood because we have to remove the 3 nuts holding on the top of the strut tower. Now, I'm gonna twist off this cap here, and I'm gonna set that right onto our cowl there. Now that will expose the back 2 there. These are 13mm, so grab your impact gun and your socket and get those 3 off. And as you remove the 3rd one, the strut's gonna fall straight through, so you wanna have a hand on it to get it off. All right, now that you have a hand on it, you can push down on the suspension assembly there to pull the strut away from the lower control arm and then off of the vehicle. It's time to get started on the rear springs. Now, to uninstall our factory ones, it looks a lot more complicated than it actually will be. So you want to grab a 13mm socket and an extension. What we're actually going to do is lower down our 1 exhaust pipe. Now, the reason being is to lower down this rear cradle, what we're going to do is remove this bolt holding it to the back end. But we can't back that bolt out because the tailpipe's in the way. So what we're going to do to make our lives just a little bit easier here is grab this 13, we're going to go up, remove the brackets on our hangers that hold the isolators together to the frame. We're going to remove that bolt, it's a 13mm bolt holding it to the frame, lower down that hanger, then there's another one right on top of the exhaust tip. With those 2 out of the way, we'll be able to lower down our exhaust tailpipe just enough to clear that bolt, get that backed all the way out. With that in mind, we're also going to remove the bottom shock bolt. That's holding that to the cradle itself as well. We just need a little bit of clearance to get the factory one out. First step, 13 socket, extension, impact gun. Let's pop off those hanger brackets holding it to the frame. Got that one loose. We got one more under the tailpipe tip. All right, this one's a little bit trickier to get to, right above our tip, but we just have enough clearance to get to it without needing a swivel. You can see that cap back coming down. Just let it hang off. We're gonna put our bolts aside. All right, guys, now you can see we have it lowered down. You can see us getting a lot more clearance, and now we have enough room to back that bolt out. And of course, if you needed to, you could pull down just a little bit on that back tailpipe to give yourself more clearance, but I think we're good right there as it is. All right, the next step here, I actually want to get our pole jack out. Now guys, if you remember, we're using a lift here at our shop, but if you're on the ground, hydraulic jack does the trick just as well. You want to have a pole jack here. We're going to jack this all the way up just to put a slight bit of tension, take a little bit of tension off of that cradle. So we're just barely holding that up. So a little bit of tension. Do the same thing with a hydraulic jack if you're working on the ground. We don't want that cradle to shoot down with all that tension from that spring, so you want to support that weight. If you're up in the air with a pole jack, that's a good way to go. If you're on the ground, a hydraulic jack will do the trick. Makes it easier to lower it down. All right, guys, with that weight supported, you want to grab an 18mm socket and 15mm wrench and pop off the bottom shock bolt holding it to the cradle. The 18 is going to go on the nut, 15 is going to go on the bolt head side on the opposite end. Now if you need to, grab a ball peen hammer, just tap that out to get the bolt to come through the other end. Next up is that bolt on the back end of that cradle. Grab an 18mm wrench to hold the nut side and a 15mm socket to get the bolt head. Make sure at this point you have that weight supported. All right, guys, once that bolt's out of the way, we can start lowering down our pole jack ever so slowly. Now, like I said, this is under a lot of tension. You don't want to get it down too quickly just to unload all that pressure. Go very slowly with your pole jack, and if you're using hydraulic jack, just slowly rotate that handle to get that to lower down. Once you get that nice and loose, you'll see all that pressure comes off. You get a lot of play in that spring. Get your jack out of the way if need be, or lower it all the way down. Make sure you're pulling that isolator out with it.
So for the rear, we just need to continue uninstalling just a little bit more. We need to take our factory shock out. So there's just two 16mm bolts at the top. We're gonna take those out, then push down on our knuckle and get our strut out. We're gonna grab our impact extension and a 16mm swivel socket and take these two bolts out. So now we're just gonna grab a pry bar just to help us pull down on this knuckle here to get our shock out of place. All right, now you can go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. So we have our new coilover here. Now I did not adjust this at all. We'll have to get it on the car and drop it on the ground just to see how actually low this is gonna be, but we'll adjust after that. We're gonna get this in place and slot this down into our shock mount. We'll just get our lower shock bolt through. And just thread our nut on the back side, and we'll raise the vehicle up and get everything else mounted. Now we have our bucket here, jack back up with our pole jack. Now since there's no spring in there, it's nice and easy. Just gonna get this back bolt lined up. If you need to, you can use a pry bar just to get everything aligned. Give it a tap with a hammer. Get our nut threaded on the back side. Then we can go ahead and tighten these two bolts down here and here. We're gonna grab our impact and 15mm socket and 18mm wrench, tighten both those bolts down. Now we can get our exhaust back up into place. Now this might be hard to see just because of the angle and my hands blocking everything. We're gonna get our two 13mm bolts threaded back in to our hangers. And we'll grab our impact with our extension and 13mm socket and tighten those two down. Last thing we need to do in the rear here is just bolt our shock tower back up here. So we just have our pole jack lift up a little bit more on our coilover just to get that in place. We'll get our two bolts threaded in up here. Then we're gonna grab our impact extension and 16mm swivel and tighten those two down. So now we're gonna come to the front and get our coilover in. Now you just wanna make sure you have the right one. They are side dependent. The nut that is welded on will be towards the front of the vehicle. We're gonna get our studs lined up. Our two closest ones will go towards the inside of the vehicle. Get this in place and then get our top three nuts on. So as you can see here, I already have one of our nuts threaded on just so it doesn't fall. Get our other two on. Then we'll grab our impact and 13mm socket and tighten those down. So we have our vehicle raised up a little bit and our pole jack under our knuckle just to raise it up to get to our coilover. Get our factory bolt back in. Thread it in, and we'll grab our impact and 18mm socket and tighten that down. While we're also here, we can get our sway bar link in place. So it's just gonna slide into the back here. Grab our 21mm nut, thread that on, grab our socket and impact and tighten that down. Now we just need to get our knuckle back into our upper control arm. So we're just gonna push that up, get that in place. And thread our 18mm nut on, grab our impact and socket and tighten that down. Last thing we need to do in the front up here is just re-secure our ABS line. So we have our 3 clips, one here and then 2 on the brake line. Now you can go ahead and repeat those same steps for the front and rear on the other side of the car. After that, you're gonna put your wheels on and then see how high the vehicle is off the ground. If you need to adjust it, you have your tools right here. You just loosen these locking rings and you can actually spin these by hand if you need to, and then just tighten those lower locking rings back down to get to the height that you want. Just to quickly show you how to adjust, you're gonna take your tool and just loosen up this bottom nut, and you can actually just spin it down or spin it up to the desired height. Spin this locking ring back down, and then tighten it back down through spanner wrench. And that wraps up our install of our MAXX Coil-Over Kit for our 2011 to 2023 rear-wheel drive Challenger. And remember, for everything Challenger, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.